Hi, I'm Jocelyn Nieves, and this is my Bioblitz presentation. So my first vertebrate was the eastern gray squirrel, and these squirrels acquire energy through the food they eat. These foods consist of acorns, other nuts, as well as berries. Throughout the year to prepare for hibernation, squirrels consume other foods such as mushrooms, plant caterpillars, and tree flowers and buds. In order to obtain all necessary nutrients for growth and reproduction, squirrels often obtain a variety of foods. Where do they live and how do they interact with their environment? Eastern gray squirrels thrive in areas with an abundance of trees and access to a variety of foods for them to consume, such as forests. As mentioned above, squirrels acquire their energy needed through the consumption of food and use these different foods to ensure that they have all the nutrients they need to stay healthy and to survive. Squirrels have a mutualistic relationship with forests. Forests provide the squirrels with most of the nutrients necessary for survival, such as access to food and shelter. In return, squirrels help the forest by helping it in its process of renewal. Squirrels store the collected seeds from the trees of the forest, and this catching behavior that they have is important because it promotes germination, where the squirrels hide the seeds away from the trees so that the seeds are in new places, so they grow in new trees grow in new locations. How are squirrels beneficial to humans? So squirrels play an important role in the ecosystem as they shape plant composition due to their food-saving habits. As mentioned in the previous slide, they promote germination through the spreading of seeds. This leads to new growth of trees, which are a main source of the oxygen that humans breathe. A fun fact about squirrels and my hypothesis is, according to the National Wildlife Foundation's blog, squirrels can find food buried beneath an entire foot of snow. Food is essential to life, and that doesn't change in the heart of wintertime. Squirrels can pick up the scent of their food, then follow that scent to find their food source. And my hypothesis for this is because they rely solely on nuts and berries for food and energy sources, squirrels can be commonly found in areas that have a large amount of trees, bushes, such as forests. So it wasn't really hard for me to find a squirrel because they're all over campus. I went on a walk and was able to locate one within the first 10 minutes. I believe this is one of the easiest organisms to find because anyone who walks around campus knows that they are everywhere. Some advice I would give to scientists completing an environmental catalog would be to look for these vertebrates in forested areas and to be careful when observing these animals as they tend to run away when you approach them. It is best to observe from a distance. So my next organism is the invertebrate. It is a bumblebee, and you can kind of see it right there. So how do they interact with organisms and their environment? They're very proactive with their communities and they have many interactions with their environment. Bumblebees are known as pollinators, so they interact with other organisms such as flowers, and they extract pollen from one flower and transfer it to another. When the male pollen grains are transferred to the stigma, the female part of another flower, fertilization will occur and the flowers will then produce new seeds. How do they reproduce and what are their life cycle stages? The life cycle of bees start with eggs. The queen bee will lay her eggs within each cell of a honeycomb, and the male working bees will fertilize the eggs. The fertilized eggs will become female bees, whereas the unfertilized eggs will become either drones or male honeybees. So how are bumblebees beneficial to humans? They are extremely important to humans whether we realize it or not. According to bumblebee.org, the plants that bees pollinate make about 30% of the food that us humans consume. Bees also pollinate around 80% of Europe's wildflowers, which add to a certain aesthetic to the world's landscape. Imagine a world without flowers, ew. Bees are a vital component to a healthy environment as well as the lifestyle that humans have become accustomed to. So a fun fact about bumblebees is that despite their small size, bumblebees must consume a large amount of food. Bumblebees have extremely fast metabolisms and are eating almost continuously. According to Goldfin, a bumblebee with a full stomach is only ever about 40 minutes away from starvation. And my hypothesis was because bumblebees play such a vital role in the ecosystem, their recent decline in population poses a threat to both our environment and our personal lifestyles. So my experience identifying bumblebees was not troublesome at all. Since I know that they are pollinators, I kind of use that knowledge to locate them. So I found my bee hovering over a flower pot at the entrance of my apartment building's office. I was able to get really close and take a good picture of the bumblebee without disturbing it. My advice to someone looking to conduct research on bumblebees is to look for them in their natural habitats. Go somewhere that has a lot of flowers and plants where they may be pollinating, such as a field, on a sunny day and watch them carry out their daily work. So my flowering plant was a dandelion. And how do they interact with other organisms in their environment? They come into contact with other species of plants and animals due to their nutritiousness. Insects, for example, may use the leaves, roots, and seeds of this organism to feed themselves. As well, they fertilize grass. As the dandelions pull nutrients from the soil, they can make them accessible to other plants. How do they acquire energy? Through photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a vital part as to how dandelions acquire their energy. Being photoautotrophs, they can develop their own food. Through contact with sunlight, the plant's leaves assemble carbohydrates that aid in respiration. The storage of this energy allows them to regrow many times even after being mowed. If the flower head is detached at their fat taproot system, their fat taproot system causes the emergence of a new flower. So that's why, if you pick them, they come back. How are they beneficial to humans? Throughout history, dandelions have been used for medicine and nutrition. This organism is known to be rich in vitamins and minerals. They play a large role for humans due to the numerous roles they can play. In medicine, the leaves and roots have been proved to aid in digestion and act as a laxative, causing it to be effective for people with weak livers. Nutritionally, they can be used many ways. The roots can be roasted and added into coffee. The leaves can be added into salads, or the flower can be used as an alternate for mushrooms after being breaded and fried. So I thought that was interesting. So a fun fact about dandelions is they are a food source for pollinators during the early season. When the presence of flowers are at a low due to the temperatures and the season, dandelions provide pollen and nectar for those early season pollinators. This decreases the chances of potential endangerment and extinction of the species. Bees, wasps, and butterflies, also beetles, are all examples of pollinators that can use a dandelion plant for nutrition. So I said my hypothesis was because of their medicinal nature, dandelions could potentially play a part in aiding those with health issues. So identifying a dandelion was not hard because it is a recognizable plant. Its bright yellow color makes it stand out easily, and making a wish by blowing on them when they are in their initial white fuzzy state is a staple in many childhoods. To anyone looking to complete an environmental catalog using dandelions, I would urge them to include their medicinal properties. I feel that this is something commonly overlooked and unknown amongst the public and is beneficial to humans in many ways. So my non-flowering plant was a pine tree. And how do they acquire energy? Pine trees acquire energy through photosynthesis as well, but because pine trees keep their needles year-round, this means that they can photosynthesize even in the winter, so they don't go dormant. And photosynthesis is the process of using light to synthesize foods from carbon dioxide and water. An adaptation for survival in its environment that pine trees have is their shape. So since they are cone-shaped, this helps the trees bear the heavy weight of the snow in the heart of winter, and the cones that grow in the pine cones, help to protect the tree's seeds in the harsh winter time. How are they beneficial to humans? Humans benefit from pine trees for non-essential aesthetic purposes mainly. For example, during the holidays, people bring pine trees into their homes and decorate them. Also, wood from pine tree trunks are often used to make furniture that humans use for their comfort in everyday lives. A fun fact that I found about pine trees is that they reproduce via their cones. These cones are what contain the male and female sex organs, and their seeds are located on the scales of the pine cones. So my hypothesis was, if humans continue to use pine trees for strictly aesthetic purposes, on top of the increasing issue of deforestation, pine trees could potentially face a loss in population. Identifying a pine tree was not very hard for me because they were very common where I grew up. I grew up in central PA. Also, due to their needles, they have a very distinct appearance, making them easy to identify. To any scientists looking to create a new environmental catalog, I recommend locating this type of tree in a forest, especially during the wintertime, because that will be the easiest time to spot the pines among the other trees, since they do not lose their needles when the other trees tend to shed their leaves. So it'll be a bunch of bare trees and then a full green pine tree. So my last organism was the fungi, and it was a mushroom. So how many chromosomes do mushrooms have, and how do they determine gender? Mushrooms are believed to have 24 chromosomes. Their haploid chromosome number has been found to be n equals 12, which when you put that in diploid form, it gives them a total of 24 chromosomes. Fungi do not have a particular gender. In fact, mushrooms and other fungi can have over thousands of different sexes. This huge variety of sexes can all mate amongst each other and is quite efficient in avoiding harmful mutations within their DNA. How do they acquire energy? Mushrooms are classified as decomposers, and they acquire their energy by decomposing dead or decaying organic material. They can extract energy from the organisms they decompose, and they can take this energy from compounds such as sugar and protein. Mushrooms are what we call heterotrophic and get their energy from outside sources similar to us humans. How are they beneficial to humans? Edible mushrooms are a common food in human diets. They are beneficial to humans because mushrooms have high amounts of nutrients including B vitamins, vitamin D, protein, fiber, and antioxidants. Mushrooms are also super low in calories, carbohydrates, sodium, cholesterol, and fat. So an interesting fact that I found out about mushrooms was that long before trees populated Earth's land, so before there were trees everywhere, giant mushrooms were everywhere, and these ancient organisms were believed to be about 8 meters tall and about 1 meter wide. So it's a pretty big mushroom. So my hypothesis was because mushrooms are so nutrient rich in human diets, if eaten regularly, they can improve the health of many and decrease the chances of common diseases found in those with poor diets. So this was definitely the most difficult organism for me to find for my lab notes. I ultimately ended up using an edible mushroom from my refrigerator as my picture, but I also included facts about wild mushrooms so that the viewers of this presentation could have a better understanding of mushrooms as a whole group. My advice to scientists looking into observing or researching mushrooms would be to be patient. Fungi can be a complex category of organisms to understand, and they are difficult for me to find in my immediate environment. However, mushrooms have a variety of different habitats depending on the type of mushroom you're looking for and mushrooms have a variety of different habitats depending on the type you're looking for, but they are highly populated in common areas ranging all the way from forests to sand dunes. So the experiment that I was going to choose based on the hypothesis was the bumblebee hypothesis. So my hypothesis was because bumblebees play such a vital role in the ecosystem, their recent decline in population poses a threat to both our environments and our personal lives. So an experiment that I feel that we can conduct is maybe for a period of a week, we totally cut out everything that we use daily that come from bees. So all the food products that come from plants that bees pollinate, honey, everything like that, and just see how different the lives are so that we can understand and appreciate the impact that bees have on our everyday lives. So these were the images that I took of my organisms. That is the dandelion, that is the pine tree, that's a bumblebee. You can see it right there. It's on the flower. There's a squirrel. It's kind of blended in. And then that's the mushroom. And then these are my sources.
Oh yeah.